Imagine holding a simple Washington quarter in your hand, a coin so ordinary, you might toss it into a vending machine without a second thought. But what if that same 1986 P-Mint Washington quarter you just spent on a soda was actually worth $1.6 million? It sounds impossible, right? Yet stories are surfacing that prove these hidden treasures are out there, circulating in pocket change, buried in old coffee cans, or forgotten in dusty drawers. Now, before we dive into how this coin became one of the most shocking discoveries in American numismatic history, let's rewind. The year was 1986. Ronald Reagan was president. The Space Shuttle Challenger tragedy had shaken the nation, and millions of shiny new quarters rolled off the presses at the Philadelphia Mint. Most were ordinary, tens of millions of them. But among those, a few were different. A few were mistakes. And one of those mistakes became the stuff of legend. This particular 1986 P Washington quarter looks almost identical to every other coin minted that year, until you look closer. It's the details that tell the story. For starters, the P mint mark, stamped right under Washington's neck, wasn't supposed to appear on some of the planchets used during the early stages of production. The mint mixed planchets from earlier batches, and some ended up being struck on silver planchets instead of the regular copper-nickel clad composition. A mix-up so rare that only a handful have ever been confirmed. And that's what makes this coin so valuable. Imagine it, a simple 25-cent piece struck on a 90% silver planchet that shouldn't even exist in 1986. A coin that accidentally bridged two different minting eras. Collectors call it a transitional error, and it's one of the most sought-after mistakes in the hobby. But let's add another twist. Many of these rare 1986 P quarters slipped into circulation before anyone realized their mistake. People spent them on coffee, gum, gas, without knowing they were holding a million-dollar secret. That's the haunting beauty of this story. Ordinary Americans held history in their pockets and never knew it. If you want to know whether you've got one of these treasures, grab your quarters and pay attention. The key is in the sound, the shine, and the weight. A regular 1986 quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. But the rare one, struck on a silver planchet, weighs slightly less, around 6.25 grams, and produces a higher-pitched, ringing tone when dropped gently on a hard surface. The edge is another giveaway. Regular clad quarters show a copper-colored line along the rim. But the rare silver version? Pure, clean silver from edge to edge. Collectors have been searching for decades. Yet new discoveries still pop up. One man in Pennsylvania, cleaning out his late father's belongings, found a 1986 P quarter in an old jar. He almost spent it at a car wash before a friend noticed something odd about the shine. That same coin later sold at auction for over $1.6 million. That's right, a 25-cent piece turned into a small fortune overnight. And that's where this gets personal. Think back to your own life, your first job, your pocket change, that old coin jar you haven't opened in years. We all have one. What if, buried inside, lies the very coin that changes everything? Every collector dreams of this moment. The day you find something the rest of the world missed, if there's something magical about that possibility. The 1986 P Washington quarter reminds us that the world still holds secrets. That hidden value still exists in plain sight. And for those willing to look, fortune often comes to the patient and the curious. You're at a diner. You pay your bill, drop a few quarters onto the table, and walk away. One of them, one you never noticed, glints a little brighter under the light. That one could have been your million-dollar coin. How many of those tiny, missed moments have passed by without us knowing? For collectors, this isn't just about money. It's about mystery, legacy, and discovery. The 1986 P quarter captures all three. Its story reminds us that not every valuable thing sparkles at first glance. Some treasures hide behind scratches, fingerprints, and years of circulation. Now, let's get technical again. If you suspect you've got the right coin, the first thing to do is weigh it on a precise digital scale. Anything around 6.25 grams is worth a closer look. Next, examine the edge. If there's no copper line, just a solid silver tone, you might be staring at something extraordinary. Finally, take a magnifier and look closely at Washington's portrait and the eagle on the reverse. Many genuine examples have sharper details and slightly deeper strike lines, a subtle clue that the metal used wasn't typical. If you think you've found one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it with your thumb. Cleaning can destroy its value. Put it in a soft plastic holder and take it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service. Let the professionals confirm it. Imagine standing there, hearing the experts say, "This is one of them." That's the kind of moment collectors dream about. The heart races, your hands shake, and suddenly, your 25-cent coin is worth more than your car, maybe even your house. But let's reset again, because this isn't just about a lucky find. It's about what that find represents. Hope, chance, the idea that something ordinary can hold unimaginable worth. It's the same thrill that's kept coin collectors searching since childhood. The idea that the next coin you touch could rewrite your story. People say the age of discovery is over, but for coin hunters, it's alive and well. The 1986 P quarter is living proof. It's a reminder that mistakes, even at the highest levels, can become miracles for the rest of us. And that's why every time you get change back, you should look a little closer. So tonight, when you get home, dump out that old jar of quarters. Spread them on the table. Let the light hit each one. You never know. Maybe one of them will sing that higher tone, that rare silver ring that makes your heart stop for a second. Because somewhere out there, in a forgotten drawer or glove compartment, another one of these coins is waiting to be found. And when it is, the headlines will read again. Ordinary man discovers 1986 P Washington quarter worth over $1 million. It all started with the Georgia State Quarter, part of the 50 State Quarters program launched by the U.S. Mint in 1999. Millions were struck that year at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Most ended up in pockets, vending machines, and change jars. But hidden among the masses, a handful of rare errors were created. Coins so rare that collectors today would pay more than $1 million just to own one. A collector in Georgia, just an ordinary guy like you or me, was going through his coin rolls one evening back in the early 2000s. He noticed something off. The coin had the Georgia peach design, but the color and texture looked different, almost like a proof coin, but not quite. When he took it to an expert, jaws dropped. What he'd found wasn't just a state quarter. It was a minting mistake so bizarre it had never been seen before. This quarter was struck on the wrong planchet, meaning it wasn't even supposed to be made from the metal used for quarters. It was struck on a planchet intended for a US dime. That tiny, seemingly insignificant minting error transformed a 25-cent coin into a piece worth over $1.7 million. Think about that for a second. One small mistake, one overlooked detail at the mint, created a modern-day treasure worth more than most people's homes. If you're still with me, take a deep breath, because we're just getting started. There are multiple versions of the 1999 Georgia quarter out there, and only a few are worth this kind of life-changing money. So how do you know if you have one of these rare million-dollar coins? Let's go step by step. First, flip your coin and look for the mint mark, right on the obverse, just next to Washington's ponytail. If you see a P, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. That's the one we're talking about, the 1999 P Georgia quarter. The Denver version is valuable too, but the Philadelphia mint had the wildest and most shocking minting errors. Now, look closely at the surface of the coin under a good light. If the metal looks lighter or thinner than usual, almost silvery or a bit too reflective, that's your first clue. These error coins were struck on planchets intended for dimes or foreign coins, meaning they're slightly smaller and lighter than a normal quarter. A normal quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. But these rare ones, they come in at around 4.8 grams, a full gram lighter. If your scale shows that, don't spend that quarter. You could be holding a fortune. Collectors have reported a few known types of valuable 1999 Georgia quarters. Some were double struck, meaning the design appears twice in different positions. Others were struck on the wrong planchet. And a few were proof coins accidentally released into circulation, something that should never have happened. Proof coins are made for collectors, not for pocket change. They're struck with specially polished dies and have mirror-like surfaces. If you find one of those with a P mint mark and it looks too shiny to be true, it might be one of those extremely rare escapees. Imagine finding one of those today. You're at the grocery store, you get some change back, and one coin just looks off. You take it home, toss it under a magnifying glass, and realize it's the 1999 P Georgia quarter, the very coin people have spent years hunting for. One coin, one discovery, and suddenly, your life changes. They hide in plain sight. They blend in with every other quarter you've ever seen. Some collectors have even reported finding slightly off-center Georgia quarters or coins missing part of the design, and those, too, can sell for thousands. But the real prize, the true treasure, is that wrong planchet strike, the one that turns 25 cents into $1.7 million. It's wild to think that something this valuable is still floating around out there. Every day, coins are exchanged in gas stations, banks, parking meters, and coin machines, and you never know which one might be the jackpot. It's like a secret lottery, except you don't have to buy a ticket. You just have to look closely, and the backstory of why this happened makes it even more mysterious. During the early production of the state quarters program, the Philadelphia Mint was running full speed. Over 450 million Georgia quarters were struck in 1999 alone. But the Mint also had leftover blanks from other coins. Somewhere along the way, a few dime blanks, or possibly blanks meant for foreign coins, got mixed in with the quarter production run. Those few mistakes were pressed with the Georgia design, and just like that, a handful of accidental million-dollar treasures were born. The answer lies in rarity and story. Coin collectors live for the thrill of finding something that wasn't supposed to exist. These coins tell a story of imperfection, of human error, of chance, and that story, combined with rarity, drives collectors wild. In auctions, these rare 1999 P. Georgia quarters have fetched sums that defy logic. People with deep pockets, serious numismatists, are willing to pay millions because they know how few of these exist. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, I've got some 1999 quarters in my change jar, this is the moment you've been waiting for. Go check them. Grab a magnifying glass and a digital scale. Look for that P mint mark, check the weight, examine the color and detail. The rare ones often have a slightly thinner edge and a sharper strike. Every few minutes, people discover something new about these coins. Some find them at estate sales, others in pocket change, and a few in old rolls that have been sitting untouched for decades. Imagine the stories those coins could tell, sitting in a drawer, passed from hand to hand, unaware that they hold the key to over $1 million. Let that sink in. The idea that a single quarter could pay off your house, your car, and your kids' college tuition, all from a coin that was supposed to be worth 25 cents. And yet, so many people never look. They assume all coins are just coins. But those who do look, those who pay attention to the smallest details, are the ones who uncover history. They're the ones who find hidden treasures. The very coin that represents Georgia, the Peach State, known for its beauty and charm, hiding one of the most valuable minting errors ever made. It's a symbol of how sometimes the most ordinary things can turn out to be extraordinary. So, before you spend that old quarter, take a moment to look at it. Check the date, the mint mark, the surface, the color, the weight. Because the next time you go through your change, you might not just be counting coins. You might be counting possibilities. The 1999 P. Georgia quarter isn't just a piece of metal. It's a story, a mystery, a reminder that treasure doesn't always sparkle. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice. Yeah, you heard that right. A coin most people would toss into a vending machine could actually buy you a house, a car, and still leave you with enough to retire early. Sounds insane, doesn't it? But this isn't a rumor. This story is 100% real, and the reason why could be hiding in the smallest details most collectors overlook every single day. Now picture this. It's 1994. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia is striking millions of quarters, all meant for everyday use. Nothing fancy, no commemorative designs, just George Washington's familiar face on one side and that proud bald eagle on the other. But in the middle of all that noise, something strange happened. Somewhere deep in the minting room, a single mistake, a microscopic error, created one of the rarest and most valuable Washington quarters in American history. For years, nobody noticed. These coins were rolled up, shipped off, and spent like any other. Some were probably used to buy coffee, others dropped into parking meters. That's the haunting part. This million-dollar treasure may have already passed through thousands of hands without anyone realizing what they were holding. Let's start with the mint mark, that tiny letter P just next to Washington's ponytail. It stands for the Philadelphia Mint, and while millions of these were struck, only a handful show an extraordinary flaw. The error lies in the metal composition and the strike itself. One of these quarters was accidentally struck on a planchet mint for a 90% silver-proof coin, a material that wasn't supposed to be used in circulation. That single oversight turned a 25-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar mystery. Now imagine being the person who found it. There's a story of a man in Pennsylvania who discovered his 1994 quarter didn't sound quite right when he dropped it on the table. It had a ring, a bright, crisp tone that caught his attention. He took it to a local coin shop, expecting maybe a few bucks. The dealer's face turned white as he placed the coin under a magnifier. What he saw changed everything. Sharp details, a deep mirror finish, and an unusual weight. This wasn't a normal quarter. After weeks of testing, experts confirmed it. The coin had been struck on a 90% silver planchet meant for proof sets. It later sold for a staggering $1.8 million at a private auction. Now let's pause for a second. Think about all the times you've emptied your pockets at the end of the day, those jingling coins you don't even look at. What if one of them could change your life forever? That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal and mint marks. It's about hidden stories, accidents of history, and the thrill of discovery. First, look for the mint mark. If it's a P, you're in the right range. Then, weigh it carefully. A standard quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but the rare silver strike version will weigh closer to 6.25 grams. That extra half gram might not sound like much, but it's worth more than $1 million. Next, listen to the sound test. Drop it gently on a hard surface and listen. A regular copper-nickel coin has a dull clink, but a silver one rings like a bell. And finally, check the edges. If you see a solid silver color without the copper stripe, that's another clue. But here's where things get tricky. Some counterfeiters try to plate regular quarters with silver to trick collectors. Real experts can spot this instantly, so before you get too excited, always have your coin authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. A genuine 1994 P silver quarter in top condition could fetch you well over $1 million today. And that number only climbs as collectors fight to own a piece of minting history. Every time I think about this story, I can't help but imagine how close we all are to finding something life-changing. These coins aren't locked away in museums. They're out there. In coin jars, old dressers, even tucked away in your car's cup holder. The person who finds the next one probably won't be a dealer or an expert. It'll be an ordinary person who just happened to look twice. There's something beautiful about that, isn't there? That in a world where everything feels mass-produced and predictable, a small piece of metal can still surprise us. That a mistake, just one tiny misstep in a factory 30 years ago, can turn into $1 million miracle. If you're a collector, you already know the rush. The pulse quickens when you spot a coin that looks just a little off. The date, the shine, the sound, every detail becomes a clue in a real-life treasure hunt. And for those who aren't collectors yet, this story might be the spark that starts it all. Because somewhere in your spare change, that same hidden fortune could be waiting for you. So tonight, when you get home, don't just toss your coins aside. Grab a magnifying glass, turn on a bright light, and start looking. Check those 1994 quarters carefully. Listen for that ring. Look for that solid silver edge. Who knows? You might be holding a piece of American history, a coin that's worth more than you ever imagined. Imagine this. You're digging through a handful of loose change, maybe to pay for a coffee or grab a snack, when something shiny catches your eye. It looks like an ordinary 2001 New York quarter. You've seen thousands just like it. But what if I told you that one of those very coins, the same design, the same year, could be worth $1 million? Yes, a single quarter, hiding in plain sight, worth more than most people make in an entire lifetime. That IT sounds impossible, right? But in the world of coin collecting, the line between pocket change and pure fortune is razor thin. And this 2001 P New York quarter, it's the perfect example of that. Now, before we dive into what makes this coin so valuable, let's go back to where it all started, 2001. The United States Mint was in the middle of the wildly popular 50-state quarters program. Each state got its moment in history, and New York's design featured the Statue of Liberty in front of an outline of the state, with a line tracing the Hudson River and the words, "Gateway to Freedom." Over 1 billion of these quarters were minted, 1.2 billion, to be exact, So how could one be worth $1 million? Well, that's where things get interesting. You see, not all coins are created equal. Some have tiny, almost invisible errors that turn them into legendary treasures. And in the case of the 2001 P New York quarter, a rare few were struck with a minting mistake so bizarre, so specific, that experts still talk about it today. The story goes that during production at the Philadelphia Mint, one die, that's the metal stamp used to press the coin's design, became misaligned. The result? A quarter with a dramatic off-center strike, where part of Lady Liberty's torch or even the edge of New York itself looks cut off. Some even show doubled letters in the words "Gateway to Freedom" or an odd ghosting effect around the outline of the state. And here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race. These weren't supposed to leave the mint. But somehow, a handful escaped into circulation. Imagine that. Someone spent one at a gas station, another at a vending machine, not realizing they were handing over a small fortune for a bag of chips. Now, here's where it gets even more suspenseful. One of these rare 2001 P New York quarters recently made headlines after selling for nearly $1 million at auction. The buyer? A private collector who'd been searching for it for over a decade. Why? Because this particular coin wasn't just a minting error, it was flawless. Graded mint state 68, struck slightly off-center, with a brilliant, untouched surface. A 1 in a billion survivor. Let that sink in for a second. A coin that's supposed to be worth 25 cents, now valued at $1 million. Start by flipping it over and checking the mint mark. You're looking for the letter P, just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the front. That stands for the Philadelphia Mint. Then, study the design closely. Look at the edge of the coin. Is anything off-center? Does the design seem tilted or uneven? Are the words "Gateway to Freedom" doubled or blurry? If you spot even a hint of these signs, don't ignore it. That could be your golden ticket. But here's another twist. There are some ultra-rare examples struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the mint accidentally used metal blanks intended for another denomination, like a nickel or even a foreign coin. These are even rarer than off-center strikes. They look slightly lighter, with a strange edge or unusual coloration. A genuine 2001 P New York quarter struck on the wrong planchet could easily fetch 6 figures, maybe even that magic $1 million mark. Well, you wouldn't be the first. Ordinary folks, retirees, collectors, even a young boy helping his grandpa sort change, have stumbled onto coins like this completely by accident. One story goes that a man in Pennsylvania found his rare 2001 P quarter mixed in with coins from his truck's cup holder. He thought it looked a little funny, so he looked it up online. And that's when he realized he was holding one of the most valuable modern quarters ever discovered. And it's not just luck. The real treasure hunters, the ones who find coins worth thousands or even millions, all have one thing in common. They pay attention. They take their time, they study the details, and they never assume a coin is just a quarter. So if you've got a jar full of spare change at home, tonight might be the night to dump it out on the table. Turn on a lamp, grab a magnifying glass, and start checking every single 2001 New York quarter you can find. Look for the P mint mark. Watch for doubling. Notice any strange strikes or edges. That's how discoveries are made. By the people who look closer when everyone else just shrugs and walks away. Think about it. The mint produced billions of quarters, but only a few with these unique flaws exist. Each one is a time capsule, a rare accident that somehow slipped past the machines, past the inspectors, and into the hands of someone just like you. Every time you pull a 2001 New York quarter out of your wallet, remember that somewhere out there, one of its identical twins just sold for $1 million. And that's the kind of fact that keeps coin collecting so magical, because fortune doesn't always come from gold bars or hidden vaults. Sometimes it jingles in your pocket. This isn't just another coin story. It's a story of luck, history, and pure discovery, one that's turning everyday people into millionaires overnight. The year was 1972. The U.S. Mint was running full speed, striking millions of quarters bearing George Washington's face. These coins were never meant to be special. They were just part of America's daily grind. Coins jingling in pockets, filling change jars, and slipping through time unnoticed. But somewhere among those millions, a few slipped through the cracks. A few were struck without a mint mark, and those became legends. Most 1972 quarters were made in Philadelphia, and normally, coins from that mint don't carry a mint mark at all. But here's where things get strange. A small batch of 1972 quarters had subtle errors, minute differences in die strikes, metal composition, and surface definition. Some collectors believe a handful were accidentally double-struck. Others say they were test strikes never meant to leave the mint. Either way, those rare survivors are now worth a fortune. A man in Ohio once sold his old coin collection at a garage sale, thinking it was just spare change. Inside that pile was a 1972 no-mint mark quarter with an error so rare that when an expert later identified it, it fetched over $1.1 million at a private auction. Can you imagine realizing that coin you sold for $1 was your ticket to $1 million? That kind of heartbreak can haunt a person for life. Now, let's slow down. How can you tell if your 1972 quarter might be one of these million-dollar treasures? First, look closely at the obverse side, the front of the coin. You should see George Washington's portrait, just as always. But pay attention to the area just above the date. If there's no mint mark, no tiny D for Denver or S for San Francisco, you might already be halfway there. But that alone isn't enough. You'll need to inspect for signs of rarity. Look at the fine details in Washington's hair and the sharpness of the letters in Liberty. Rare examples have an unusually deep strike and a high level of definition, almost like the portrait pops out in 3 dimensions. Under magnification, you might notice doubling around the letters or numbers, a faint shadow effect known as a doubled die. And here's the big clue. The rim of the coin should be perfectly even and well-defined, not shallow or worn unevenly. But the real jackpot comes when you check the coin's composition. Regular 1972 quarters are made of copper-nickel clad, but a few rare test strikes were mistakenly made of solid silver planchets left over from earlier years. Those are the ones that can hit the million-dollar mark. If your coin feels slightly heavier or sounds more resonant when dropped on a hard surface, you might be holding one of those elusive silver-struck quarters. Collectors describe the feeling of finding one as electric. One man said he was cleaning out his father's desk drawer and found a small envelope marked Old Quarters. Inside, he discovered a 1972 no-mint mark Washington quarter in nearly mint condition. He thought nothing of it until a friend suggested getting it graded. When the results came back, the expert nearly fell out of his chair. The coin was an ultra-rare strike with a composition anomaly. The appraisal? Just over $1 million. Lost in old coffee cans, resting in jars of spare change, or sitting forgotten in an attic somewhere. Every year, a few more surface, shocking even veteran collectors. But why did the no-mint mark error matter so much? It's because every coin tells a story of its birth. Mint marks are like signatures, proof of where a coin was made. When that mark goes missing, it becomes a mystery. Was it a forgotten die? A testing oversight? Or maybe a deliberate experiment never meant to reach circulation? Each theory adds to the suspense, and that mystery fuels the value. That a tiny coin, something most of us overlook, could hold a secret worth $1 million. It reminds us that sometimes the rarest treasures aren't found in mountains or oceans, but right in the palm of your hand. And here's the wild part. The market for these coins has exploded. Coin dealers, collectors, and even treasure hunters are scanning old rolls of quarters, searching for that one coin that could change their lives. The difference between a 25-cent piece and $1 million coin comes down to microscopic details. Details most people never notice. Next time you're counting change, stop for a second. Take a look at that 1972 quarter in your pocket. Does it have a mint mark? Is it unusually shiny or heavy? Could it be the one everyone's looking for? Because the truth is, nobody knows how many are still out there. The experts say fewer than 10 verified 1972 no-mint mark Washington quarters with these rare traits exist in the world today. Each one found has rewritten someone's life story. Some collectors have gone from modest hobbyists to millionaires overnight. Others missed their chance, selling their coin for pennies before realizing what they had. Imagine being the one who finds the next one. You take it to an appraiser, your heart pounding, wondering if it's real. The expert examines it under the glass, nods slowly, and says, "You have no idea what you're holding." That single moment could turn an ordinary afternoon into a story your family tells for generations. Every collector dreams of that moment. It's not just about money. It's about discovery, about holding history in your hands. Each old coin is a time capsule, carrying the marks of its journey through decades of American life. But every so often, one of those coins carries something more, a hidden fortune. So before you spend that old quarter, before you toss it into a jar, take one last look. It might not just be pocket change. It might be destiny disguised in silver and copper. But what if I told you that one of those ordinary-looking 2017 P. Ellis Island quarters has been sold for over $1.2 million? Yes, a single coin that could have bought a mansion, a supercar, or secured your retirement. Hiding in plain sight. It sounds impossible. But that's what makes this story so shocking. Because somewhere in America, someone once spent one of these million-dollar coins without knowing it. It slipped through their hands, jingled in their pocket, and disappeared into circulation. And for years, collectors have been hunting it. The Ellis Island quarter with a hidden error so rare, it turned a simple piece of pocket change into a life-changing treasure. Now, before you rush to your coin jar, let's go back to where it all started, 2017. The year the U.S. Mint released the Ellis Island quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Most of these coins were minted in Philadelphia, marked by that tiny P on the front beside Washington's portrait. Millions were made, yes, but only a microscopic number had a mysterious flaw. And that flaw is what turned an everyday quarter into a million-dollar masterpiece. Here's where it gets interesting. The rare 2017 P. Ellis Island quarter looks almost identical to every other one, except for a subtle, almost ghost-like doubling. On some of these coins, experts discovered what's called a double die obverse, a minting error where the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly, leaving a faint doubled image. Look closely at the words Liberty or In God We Trust. If the letters look thick or shadowed, like they've been stamped twice, your heart might start pounding, because you could be holding one of the rarest quarters in modern history. But that's not the only clue. On the reverse side, the image of Ellis Island. The details in the windows and the flagpole can sometimes appear blurred or distorted on the valuable ones. It's subtle, but under magnification, that difference can mean the difference between 25 cents and $1 million. Now imagine the thrill. You're sitting at your kitchen table, maybe under a single light, sifting through your coins. You see that faint doubling. You squint, grab your magnifier, and realize what you're holding. In that moment, time stops. Your palms sweat, your heart races, and all you can think is, could this really be it? Collectors across the country have felt that same rush. Stories have surfaced. One man from Ohio, another from Texas. Both discovered rare 2017 Ellis Island quarters with minting errors so perfect they stunned professional graders. One of them sold at auction for more than $1.2 million. Another was insured for nearly the same. The irony? Both coins were found in pocket change, not in some dusty vault, not in a museum. Just everyday life. Let that sink in. Right now, your change jar could be worth more than your car. That handful of coins sitting on your dresser, that might be where your million-dollar moment is waiting. Now, here's how to make sure you don't miss it. When you find a 2017 quarter, flip it over and check for that P Mint mark under In God We Trust. That's step 1. It must be a Philadelphia Mint coin. Step 2. Look at Washington's face. The valuable ones sometimes have a slight doubling around his eye, nose, or the letters in Liberty. Under good light, those tiny details make all the difference. Step 3. Examine Ellis Island itself on the back, especially the flag, the windows, and the family standing in front. On the rare million-dollar versions, some of those design lines blur together or seem slightly misplaced. It's not a wear issue, it's a minting flaw, and it's what gives the coin its fortune. And here's something that keeps collectors awake at night. Most of these error coins are still out there. They haven't all been found. Think about that. Somewhere, maybe in a soda machine, a bankroll, or your kid's piggy bank, could be the next Ellis Island quarter that turns someone into a millionaire overnight. This isn't just about money. It's about mystery. It's about how a tiny piece of metal, no bigger than a bottle cap, can carry history, luck, and destiny all in one. The Ellis Island design itself, the immigrants arriving with hope and dreams, it almost feels poetic that this specific quarter became a symbol of opportunity. A coin representing new beginnings now offers the same for whoever finds it. Maybe it's fate. Maybe it's just luck. But either way, Every time you handle a 2017 P. Ellis Island quarter, you're touching a piece of that story to SO tonight. When you empty your pockets, take a second look. That faint shine, that small detail, that could be your ticket. Because for one man, it already was. He found his Ellis Island quarter in change from a grocery store. It looked normal at first, but something about the lettering caught his eye. He sent it to be graded, not expecting much. Weeks later, he got the call, verified mint error, pristine condition, valued at over $1 million. He said he had to sit down when he heard the number. Imagine that feeling, realizing that something you almost spent on a soda could change your life forever. And that's what makes this hunt so addictive. It's not just about the money. It's the idea that there are still secrets hiding in plain sight. Still treasures buried not in the ground, but in the everyday, in the coins we touch, spend, and overlook. But there's a 1995 D. Washington quarter out there that's rewriting what people thought they knew about pocket change. And it's not just rare. It's legendary. It all began in the mid-90s, when the Denver Mint was running its presses day and night. Millions of Washington quarters were struck in 1995, just like every other year. But in the chaos of high-speed minting, something went wrong, or, depending on how you look at it, something went incredibly right. Somewhere on that minting floor, a die meant for a completely different batch, possibly prepared with unique metal content or struck with extreme precision, found its way into the production line. What came out of that machine wasn't just another quarter. It was a mistake so perfect, so hidden, that only a few sharp-eyed collectors have ever spotted it. Now here's where it gets mysterious. These 1995 D quarters look like any other at first glance. Same George Washington profile, same eagle on the back. But look closer. The real treasure hides in the tiniest details. That's your first clue. On the rare million-dollar version, the D is slightly doubled. Not a normal double strike, but a subtle shadowing that almost looks like it's breathing. Under magnification, it gives off a ghost-like appearance. Then, check the rim. The edges of these special coins are unusually sharp, like the metal wasn't trimmed correctly. It's a small difference, but to a trained collector's eye, it stands out immediately. And here's the kicker, the metal composition. Most quarters from 1995 are copper-nickel clad. But this specific 1995 D-era coin? It was struck on a 90% silver planchet left over from an older production run. Somehow, one of those blank silver discs ended up in the wrong batch, and the result was a silver quarter that shouldn't even exist. When one finally surfaced, collectors went wild. The first verified 1995 D silver strike sold for over $1 million. A coin that most people would have tossed into a vending machine was suddenly the centerpiece of numismatic history. Now pause for a second. Think about how many 1995 D quarters have passed through your hands over the years. Gas stations, grocery stores, maybe in that jar on your dresser. How many of those coins did you never even glance at? How many times did we spend history without knowing it? That's the emotional power of this discovery. It reminds us that sometimes the extraordinary hides inside the ordinary. A simple coin, something we take for granted every single day, can turn out to be a ticket to a fortune. Here's what you should do if you've got a 1995 D quarter lying around. First, look at the date. Make sure it's the 1995 issue with the Denver D mint mark. Then, under good lighting, examine that mint mark carefully. Look for doubling or any ghosting effect. Next, check the color. Silver coins have a distinct shine, and if you compare it to a normal quarter, you'll notice it's slightly whiter, not as dull. Now, the sound test, a fun one for collectors. Drop it gently on a hard surface. Silver coins ring with a higher pitch compared to the muted thud of a copper-nickel coin. That ring can sometimes tell you more than your eyes can see. That if your coin passes these checks, it's time to get serious. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Just place it carefully in a soft holder and take it to a certified coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll confirm if what you've got is the real million-dollar treasure. The wild part is that these coins aren't locked up in museums or private vaults. They're still out there, floating around in collections, change jars, and pockets across America. Every year, a few new ones are found by ordinary people who had no idea what they were holding. Collectors say finding one of these feels like lightning striking twice. Shock, disbelief, and joy all at once. Some even cry when they realize that a coin they almost spent on coffee is now worth more than their car, their house, or their retirement fund. And it's not just about the money. These discoveries ignite passion, curiosity, and hope. It makes you start looking differently at everything around you, not just coins, but life itself. Because if a quarter can be worth over $1 million, what else might we be overlooking every day? So next time you dump your change on the counter or empty your pockets before bed, slow down. Take a second look. That small, worn piece of metal could be one of the rarest treasures ever minted in the United States. It's a reminder that history doesn't just sit in museums. Sometimes, it jingles in your pocket. Imagine a coin worth $1.4 million hiding right under your nose. A simple Arizona quarter, something you've probably used to buy a soda, feed a parking meter, or toss in a jar, could secretly be worth more than your car, your house, or maybe even your retirement savings. It sounds impossible, right? But this isn't a rumor. It's a reality that's shaken the coin collecting world. Let's start with the mystery. The 2008 Arizona quarter, minted in Philadelphia, the one marked with a small p, was part of the state quarter series. Millions were made. It celebrated Arizona's stunning landscape, the Grand Canyon, and a proud saguaro cactus standing tall in front of it. On the surface, it looks ordinary. But in a small batch, something went terribly wrong at the U.S. Mint. A design flaw. A die error so rare, so specific, that collectors today are paying up to $1.4 million for one flawless example. Now, imagine this. You're sorting through spare change one evening, maybe rolling coins for the bank or digging through that dusty jar that's been sitting on the shelf for years. You pull out a 2008 Arizona quarter. You flip it over. It looks normal at first, but then you look closer, and you notice something odd near the bottom of the coin. The words Grand Canyon State, they're not fully visible. They're partially covered by the cactus leaves. That's no damage. That's the error. That's what collectors are chasing. The story goes back to the minting process itself. When the mint created the dies to strike these coins, some of them developed an over-polishing mistake. The design on the lower left side of the coin, specifically the area around the cactus and the words, was polished down too far, erasing key details and creating that overlapping look. It's subtle. Blink and you'll miss it. But to a trained eye, it's a gold mine. Literally a $1 million mistake. After all, they made hundreds of millions of these quarters. But out of that massive number, only a tiny handful, we're talking fewer than a dozen verified, show this specific die flaw. The rest? Perfectly normal. Worth 25 cents. But those rare few? They've become legends. Private collectors, auction houses, even museums have been in bidding wars over this single, seemingly ordinary Arizona quarter. A guy from Phoenix finds one while paying for gas. He thinks it looks weird, tosses it in his pocket, and forgets about it. Months later, he sees a video online talking about rare Arizona quarters. He checks his coin again, gets it authenticated, and within weeks, he's sitting on a check worth more than $1 million. Just like that. One coin changed his life. And here's where things get even more interesting, because there are still more out there. These quarters weren't pulled from circulation. They were released across the country in 2008. That means one could be sitting in your coin jar, tucked away in an old wallet, or sitting in a forgotten roll of quarters in your drawer. The odds might seem small, but remember, every legendary discovery starts with someone who decided to look. Now, let's talk about how to identify it for yourself. Grab any 2008 quarter and flip it to the tails side. You'll see the Grand Canyon and that cactus. The key area to inspect is at the bottom left, near the words Grand Canyon State. In the rare error version, the lower text is partially hidden or missing, almost like the cactus leaves are covering the lettering. Use a magnifying glass if you need to. The details matter. If your coin looks too perfect, chances are it's a regular strike. But if the words are faint, covered, or look like they were polished off, you might be holding one of the rarest modern quarters ever minted. A genuine $1.4 million piece of history. But don't stop there. Condition plays a massive role. The higher the grade, the higher the payout. Coins that show little to no wear, often described as mint state, are the ones fetching the huge prices at auction. Here's a tip most people overlook. Check the edges. Sometimes, error coins will also have slightly uneven reading or faint doubling on the letters around Arizona. These are small clues that your coin might have come from one of those rare, overpolished dies. Combine that with the hidden text, and you might have struck gold. A mistake so small, invisible to most people, ends up creating a fortune for the few who noticed. That's the magic of coin collecting. Every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story comes with $1 million twist. Collectors say that finding one of these is like catching lightning in a bottle. They're out there, but only for those willing to look closer, think differently, and trust their instincts. It's not just about the money. Though, let's be honest, $1 million wouldn't hurt. It's about uncovering a piece of American history. A piece that almost got away. Imagine the thrill of walking into an appraisal shop, laying that quarter on the counter, and watching the expert's face change as they realize what they're holding. That small circle of metal could pay off your debts, buy your dream car, even set up your family for life. And the best part? You found it, simply because you cared enough to look. And here's something to remember. The 2008 Arizona quarter isn't alone. There are countless other coins with minting errors waiting to be discovered. But this one stands out because of its story, its beauty, and its rarity. It's a symbol of how something ordinary can become extraordinary. So, before you spend your next quarter, take a second look. Because one day, you might glance down and realize that the coin in your hand isn't worth 25 cents. It's worth $1 million. You see, treasures like this don't come with warning signs. They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to find them. The next great coin discovery could come from anyone, anywhere. Maybe even you. So tonight, when you get home, open that coin jar. Check your change. Look through the drawers, the glove box, the kitchen counter. Because while most people are walking past history, you could be the one holding it. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out some loose change, and realizing one of those ordinary quarters, the same kind you've spent 1,000 times before, could be worth $1.5 million. It sounds impossible, right? But today, we're uncovering a secret most people will never believe. A 1999 Pennsylvania quarter with the P mint mark that's quietly changing lives. Now, before you think this is just another coin story, let me tell you. This one has a twist that stunned even the experts. Back in 1999, when the U.S. Mint kicked off the famous 50-state quarters program, nobody imagined one small mistake would create a $1 million treasure. Yet it did. Somewhere in Philadelphia, a batch of coins came off the press with a microscopic flaw. A flaw so unique that collectors now call it the phantom minting. And that's where our story begins. Picture it. The mint floor, humming with machinery, fresh quarters clattering into bins by the thousands. It's loud, hot, and fast. Then, for just a few minutes, something went wrong. The die used to stamp the Pennsylvania design was slightly misaligned. Barely noticeable. But the result? A handful of quarters with an eerie doubling. The kind of doubling that happens when the coin shifts just a fraction of a millimeter before the next strike. You can spot it around the edges of the word Pennsylvania or in the letters E pluribus unum. That tiny distortion turned an everyday coin into a hidden masterpiece. Collectors first caught wind of it years later. One man in Ohio, sorting through his coffee jar of change, noticed something strange about his Pennsylvania quarter. Under the light, the letters seemed almost shadowed, doubled. He sent it off to be graded, expecting maybe a $50 find. When it came back certified as a rare double die strike in pristine mint condition, the offers started rolling in. One buyer reportedly put $1.5 million on the table. Imagine that. One lucky find from pocket change turning into a small fortune. These coins aren't just sitting in museums or locked in vaults. Many are still out there, in circulation. Maybe tucked inside an old coin jar, a drawer, or mixed in with a stack of forgotten quarters. That's what makes this story so thrilling. You don't need to be a professional collector to find one. You just need to know what to look for. Take a close look at any 1999 quarter with the P mint mark that's right under the word "In God We Trust." Focus on the state outline and the statue design. The authentic Pennsylvania era coin has doubling near the base of the statue and in the word Pennsylvania itself. You might even spot slight doubling on 1999 if you tilt it under a bright light. And here's the big clue. The edges feel just a touch rougher than usual because of that misalignment during striking. Now, here's where it gets emotional. Because for many collectors, this isn't just about the money. It's about the dream, the thrill of discovering something valuable that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. Think about it. People work their whole lives saving bit by bit, but sometimes luck hides in the smallest things we overlook. A single coin, worth $1.5 million, could be resting in the palm of your hand right now. Every few years, a story resurfaces. Someone cleaning out a coin jar, someone buying a roll of quarters at the bank, someone inheriting a collection and finding that magic piece. It's a reminder that treasures don't always shine. Sometimes they blend right in. And it makes you wonder, how many people have spent this coin never knowing what it was worth? The US Mint never officially confirmed how many of these error coins exist. Estimates range from a few dozen to maybe 100. But the rarity isn't the only thing that makes them valuable. It's their condition. The best ones, graded MS 67 or higher, are nearly flawless, meaning no scratches, no heavy circulation marks, just pure mint brilliance. That's where the million-dollar valuations come in. Imagine the emotion of that moment, holding the coin under a magnifying glass, realizing what you have, your heart pounding as you check it again and again. It's not just money. It's discovery, it's history, it's the excitement of knowing something the rest of the world missed. Check for the P Mint mark. It must be from Philadelphia. Step 2. Examine the details closely with a magnifying glass or even your phone camera zoomed in. Look for doubled edges, especially in the lettering and numbers. Step 3. Tilt it under light. The doubling should almost shimmer. And finally, if it looks promising, don't clean it. Never polish it. Send it to a professional grader like PCGS or NGC. Cleaning can destroy the value instantly. Let me tell you something personal. A friend of mine, Tom, is a small-town mechanic. Every day, he'd toss his change into an old coffee can by the counter. For years, that can filled up with coins, nickels, dimes, quarters, nothing special. One evening, while watching a documentary about rare coins, he decided to dump it out and sort through it just for fun. That's when he noticed something odd, a 1999 quarter with the P Mint mark that looked different. He almost ignored it, but curiosity won. He checked online, then had it graded. 2 months later, he sold it for a life-changing amount. It wasn't just luck, it was persistence. That can of change turned into a miracle. Every collector knows the thrill of the hunt, that quiet hope every time you flip a coin over. Because who knows? The next one could be worth more than you ever imagined. These rare finds remind us that the ordinary can hide the extraordinary, and that's what makes coin collecting so addictive. It's not just about silver or copper. It's about the story each coin carries. The 1999 Pennsylvania quarter is a piece of American history, a reminder that even in the chaos of mass production, perfection slips. And in that imperfection, true value is born. So next time you empty your pockets or roll up your spare change, don't rush it. Take a minute to look, because somewhere among the nickels and dimes, there might be a faint glimmer of doubling, a subtle misalignment, a hidden fortune. The world is full of surprises, and sometimes, all it takes is a good eye and a bit of patience to uncover one. People dream of winning the lottery, but this is something better, because the odds are real, the treasure is tangible, and the story is yours to tell. One day, you might be the next person to discover one of these rare 1999 P Pennsylvania quarters. And when you do, remember that you didn't just find a coin. You found a piece of history worth more than $1 million. But what if I told you that some of these quarters are hiding in plain sight, sitting in change jars, tucked away in dresser drawers, or forgotten in old coin collections, and one of them could change your life forever? It all started in 1965, a year that most collectors never realized was hiding one of the rarest secrets in U.S. minting history. The mint was in chaos, silver prices were skyrocketing, and the government had just made a drastic decision: stop using silver in quarters. That one change sparked confusion, mistakes, and a handful of rare coins that slipped into circulation, including the 1965 quarter that would go on to become a millionaire maker. Now here's where the mystery deepens. The official story says that every 1965 quarter was struck on a copper-nickel planchet. No silver, no exceptions. But history tells us otherwise. A few 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964. These weren't supposed to exist, but they do. And finding one is like uncovering buried treasure right in your pocket change. Imagine holding a coin that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, but secretly holds a fortune. One man did. He found a 1965 quarter in an old coin roll that looked slightly different. The color was brighter, almost glowing under the light. He weighed it, and instead of the standard 5.67 grams, it came in closer to 6.25 grams. That was the giveaway. What he had wasn't just a quarter. It was a rare 1965 struck on a silver planchet, one of the most valuable quarters in American history. The discovery sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world because it proved something everyone thought was impossible, that $1 million mistake from the mint had slipped into the hands of regular people. It could be sitting in anyone's change jar, maybe even yours. First, check the edge. Regular quarters from 1965 have a brownish edge from the copper core. But if your coin's edge is solid silver, you might be onto something huge. Next, weigh it carefully. Silver planchets are heavier, around 6.25 grams. If you see that number pop up, your heart will skip a beat. Collectors and experts have confirmed only a handful of these silver 1965 quarters exist. But that's what makes it so thrilling. There are still more out there, undiscovered. Think about it. How many times have you handled quarters without a second thought? That same small coin could hold the key to $1 million payday. Every collector dreams of that moment. The heart-pounding second when you realize the coin in your hand is worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement. This isn't fantasy. It's happened before, and it can happen again. And if you're wondering how such a rare mistake even occurred, here's the story. In late 1964, when the mint was switching from silver to copper-nickel, some leftover silver blanks, called planchets, were accidentally fed into the presses for 1965 quarters. The machines didn't know the difference, and the coins were struck, stamped with 1965, and released into circulation before anyone realized what happened. Those few mistakes became legends. Imagine being the worker at the mint who unknowingly created a coin that would one day be worth over $1 million. Imagine how those coins traveled, from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, vending machine to vending machine, before ending up somewhere, forgotten, waiting for the right person to look closely enough. If that doesn't send chills down your spine, I don't know what will. Because this isn't just about money. It's about history, mystery, and luck colliding in one small silver disc. The thrill of the hunt. Every time you sort through your change, every time you open an old coin jar, you might be seconds away from discovering a life-changing piece of history. These coins are so rare, even seasoned dealers have gone decades without ever seeing one in person. Yet they exist. And that means there's still a chance. Let's reset for a second. Picture yourself sitting at the kitchen table, an old coffee can full of quarters beside you. You start sorting through them just for fun. Then you spot it, a 1965 with a bright, silver shine. You hold it up, check the edge, and your hands start shaking. Could this be it? You grab a small scale. The number 6.25 flashes back at you. You realize you might be holding over $1 million in a single quarter. That's the kind of moment you never forget. It's not just luck, it's fate, timing, and a sharp eye. Because the truth is, these coins don't come with signs pointing to their value. They hide behind ordinary appearances, daring someone to notice. And once you know what to look for, you can never look at change the same way again. You'll start scanning every coin, feeling every edge, listening to the ring of silver when it hits the table. That's the sound of possibility. It's easy to think all the treasures have already been found, but that's not true. The world of coins still holds mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And the 1965 No Mint Mark Washington quarter is proof. It's not just a piece of metal. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can hold incredible value if you know what to look for. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter from 1981, hiding in plain sight, worth more than most people's homes. But that's exactly what happened when a collector stumbled across a 1981 P. Washington quarter that wasn't just rare, it was a once-in-a-lifetime find. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, come on, a quarter worth over $1 million. Let me take you back to how this story began. It started like any other day. A man in Pennsylvania stopped at a small-town diner for breakfast. When he paid his bill, he got a handful of change, and one quarter just felt different. The color was off. The edge looked strange. But instead of spending it, he tossed it into a coffee can at home, not realizing that simple decision would change his life forever. Years later, while sorting through that same can of old coins, he noticed that quarter again. The mint mark was faint, a P that almost looked like it was disappearing. The luster was unusually bright for a coin that old. Something about it told him to take a closer look. And when he did, everything changed. You see, in 1981, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of Washington quarters, over 600 million, to be exact. But a few coins from that year were struck on experimental planchets, coin blanks that weren't supposed to be used. These rare errors gave the coins a distinct silvery tone, a slightly different weight, and a sharper rim. They were unlike anything regular collectors had ever seen. The Mint never officially documented those experimental planchets. Some believe they were part of a secret test run for the new metallic composition that would be introduced in later years. Others say they were simply mistakes, slipped into circulation without anyone noticing. But whatever the truth is, those rare 1981 P quarters are now worth a fortune. Now, if you're thinking, how do I know if I've got one? Here's what you need to look for. First, check the mint mark. It should be a clear P on the front of the coin, right next to Washington's ponytail. But in the rare $1.7 million version, that P looks ghostly, almost fading into the metal. The surface of the coin will appear slightly glossier, almost mirror-like, but not proof quality. And here's the real giveaway, the weight. It's slightly off, usually around 5.8 grams due to the unique planchet composition. If you've got a digital scale at home, this is where the suspense really kicks in. Imagine placing your coin down and watching the number stop just above 5.7. Your heart skips a beat. Could it be? Could you be holding a $1 million coin? And here's the thing. Stories like this aren't just legends. Real collectors have discovered these error coins tucked inside old rolls from banks, coin jars, even parking meter returns. One man in Ohio actually sold his for over $1.7 million after experts confirmed it was a prototype strike from a testing batch. The truth is, most people spend their treasures without ever realizing what they had. Let that sink in. A $1 million coin could have been handed to someone as change for a cup of coffee. It could have sat in a vending machine. It could have been tossed in a wishing fountain. That's the wild thing about coin collecting. Every coin has a story, and sometimes, that story can make you rich beyond belief. Now, let's reset for a moment. Think about the coins you've seen your whole life. Quarters jingling in pockets, scattered across countertops, forgotten in glove boxes. You've probably handled thousands of them. But how many did you really look at? How many times did you think, what if this one's special? That's where the real thrill begins. Every collector knows that adrenaline rush, that moment when you spot something off, something that doesn't fit the pattern. The 1981 P. Washington quarter is exactly that kind of coin. It's the hidden diamond among ordinary stones. And the truth is, this coin's story isn't just about money. It's about mystery, patience, and luck colliding in the most unexpected way. It's a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary things can hold extraordinary value, if you know how to look. The Philadelphia Mint didn't put a mint mark on all quarters before 1980, so when the P appeared on the 1981 coins, it was still something new to collectors. That makes this particular year even more intriguing. The P stood for Philadelphia, but on these rare errors, that tiny letter became a symbol of hidden fortune. You're sitting at your kitchen table, going through your spare change, and you notice one coin shining just a little differently. You tilt it toward the light. The edges gleam like it's been freshly struck, but the date says 1981. You flip it, and that faint P catches your eye. Your pulse starts racing. You reach for a magnifier, your hands trembling just a little. The more you look, the more you realize, this could be the one. You grab your scale, hold your breath, and the weight reads 5.8 grams. Suddenly, it's not just a quarter anymore. It's a ticket to a new life. Because if it's real, that coin could sell for more than $1.7 million. Rarity isn't always about age. It's about mistakes, anomalies, and timing. A 200-year-old coin might be worth less than a modern one if it's not unique. The 1981 P quarter proves that lightning can strike in the most unexpected years. Collectors say that once you've seen the real thing, you never forget it. The edges are sharper. The sound it makes when dropped on a table is crisper, almost like fine silver. It's a small difference, But to a trained ear, it's unmistakable as oh the next time you get change at the grocery store or sort through an old coin roll. Take a closer look. That ordinary 1981 P quarter might be your golden ticket. Because while most people see 25 cents, the true collectors see potential, and sometimes that potential turns into a life-changing discovery. You never know when fate might decide to tap you on the shoulder. Maybe today's the day. Maybe that coin sitting in your pocket right now is worth more than you could ever imagine. So check your coins, weigh them carefully, and never ignore that feeling when something doesn't look quite right. Because once in a lifetime, someone finds the coin that everyone else overlooked, and that one discovery turns an ordinary person into a millionaire. But the truth is, one small detail separates a regular 25-cent coin from a life-changing fortune. Let's rewind for a moment. The year is 2021. The U.S. Mint released the final coins of the America the Beautiful series, the Crossing the Delaware Quarters. Millions were struck, tossed into circulation, jingled in pockets, and spent at gas stations without a second thought. But among those millions, a handful were struck differently. A rare minting flaw, a mysterious die error that would change everything. Collectors began whispering about them. Quarters with the P Mint mark, from Philadelphia, showing faint doubling in the design. Some even had odd metal anomalies, extra thickness around Washington's face, and strange texture in the fields. Most people missed it, but a few eagle-eyed collectors noticed something off. They didn't know it yet, but they were holding coins that could later be valued at over $1 million each. Think about that for a second. A coin you could have found in your spare change tray. The same coin your kid might have used for a vending machine. And yet, one of these could pay off a house. That's the kind of secret that makes collectors lose sleep at night. Now here's the mysterious part. No one knows exactly how many of these 2021 P Washington quarters with this particular error exist. Some say only a few dozen ever left the mint before the error was caught. Others believe it was a one-night accident, a brief moment when the die shifted, just slightly, creating that double image and a thicker metal strike. What's truly fascinating is how normal they look at first glance. Hold one in your hand, and it feels just like every other quarter. But look closer under good light, maybe with a magnifying glass, and the truth starts to reveal itself. The face of George Washington might have a faint shadow, a ghostly outline. Around the words, "In God We Trust," there might be doubling, letters that seem to have been struck twice. The edges might appear slightly raised, like the metal flowed unevenly. The luster. Most 2021 quarters have a smooth, factory shine, but these rare error coins often appear a bit duller or uneven, with subtle streaks or waves in the metal. Some even have a light golden tint, a result of a misaligned alloy mix during minting. It's a strange beauty, like the coin is trying to tell you it doesn't belong with the rest. And here's the kicker. One of these was confirmed sold for nearly $1.8 million in a private auction. Not because of its age, but because of its freak birth. A perfect storm of minting conditions, rarity, and collector demand. Let that sink in. A coin minted just a few years ago, worth more than most classic cars, more than gold bars, more than some homes. And all because someone decided to look closer instead of spending it on coffee. A retired mechanic in Pennsylvania reportedly found one of these coins while rolling change for laundry. He said he noticed something odd about Washington's eye. It looked doubled, almost like a trick of light. He sent it to be appraised, half-jokingly. When the expert called him back, they told him the truth. He was holding one of the rarest modern quarters ever made. One that could change his life forever. That he couldn't believe it. For decades, he'd save coins just because they looked different. His family laughed, said he was wasting time. But that one day, that one coin, proved him right. He walked away a millionaire, all because he paid attention to a detail most people never notice. That's the heart of this story, the beauty of chance, patience, and curiosity. Every collector knows that pulse-pounding moment when you flip a coin under the light and wonder, could this be it? That single second of hope makes every search worth it. First, check the mint mark. It must have the P. That's the Philadelphia issue. Then study Washington's profile carefully, especially the nose, eye, and the letters of Liberty. Look for doubling or thickness that shouldn't be there. Next, turn the coin over and check the design of George Washington crossing the Delaware. Any signs of doubling on the boat or water lines are a huge clue. Some of these coins even have a light die crack, a small raised line running across the surface, often near the edge. That's another marker of rarity. Don't clean the coin, don't polish it, and don't scratch it. Leave it exactly as found. If you think you have one, get it authenticated by a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC. Because here's the thing, errors like these don't just represent money. They represent history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. In a world where everything feels digital and predictable, these coins remind us that real treasure still exists in our everyday lives. Sometimes all it takes is curiosity and a little luck. Collectors are scrambling right now, checking every jar of coins, every drawer, every pocket. Because this discovery has reignited the passion of coin hunting across America. Men and women in their 60s and 70s who grew up collecting wheat pennies are suddenly back at it, searching through their change like kids again. And it's not just about the money. It's about the chase, the mystery, the possibility that you could be next, every once in a while. A find like this reminds us that hidden fortune doesn't always wear gold or diamonds. Sometimes, it's hiding behind the face of George Washington, waiting for the right person to see Itita SO tonight. When you empty your pockets or count your change, take one last look before tossing that quarter into the tip jar. You might notice something strange, a shine that looks just a bit different, a line that feels out of place. And that one tiny observation could be the difference between spare change and $1.8 million. Think about it. Somewhere, in a drawer, a coffee can, or a forgotten coin roll, another 2021 P-era quarter is waiting to be found. The odds are small, but not impossible. And history has proven again and again that fortune favors the curious. So keep your eyes open, your magnifying glass ready, and your hopes high. Because the next great coin discovery might not happen in a museum. It might happen in your own home.